joining us, and then we can kind of give you the lowdown on the pre-show. Let me make sure this...
And do you have a link I can tweet out once you get that going?
I will. How about I tweet it out now, and it will tweet to you.
Awesome.
It will at you, bro, and then we'll...
Thank you.
I don't know if that's
just
still
added
cool to
me,
say.
bro.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. I've still got the old... Wait, why do I have the old description up? That is not correct.
Mine said the big one.
Yeah.
Is that what you intended?
Yep. Twitter.
Yeah, that's what my push said.
Maybe I hit it too quick. Yep, okay. We're good. Is live.
Welcome to live, no editing podcasting, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. I did press the button too quick because it was like, oh, figure eights with Jeff Striegel. And I was like, I don't know about that. So. I
mean, we do, but it was last week.
Right. Well, then I just press the same button again. You know that? You know how you do that? Like, press the same button again, and something different happens. Like, aha! I'm not insane. All right. So, Jackson, I think you've heard the show before. So, what we'll do, I'll do intros and stuff. If the noise gets a little garbly for you, don't worry about it. You will hear me bring you in, and we'll get talking all things NASCAR and Bravos and all the other disappointing sports in Atlanta. But then we'll run through the report card and everything else. Did you watch a race this weekend? What's up, Roger?
I actually went to it, yeah.
Went to it, my man. All right. We'll get to talk about that then. Excellent. Let's see. Was that your first time at Dega?
My second. I went in June for the limited capacity one.
Okay. Wow. Sweet. Cool. Then, silly season stuff, playoffs, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? I have about a half a page notes that is pretty typical for us. We'll just freestyle.
Sounds
if
good.
Things tickle our fancy, we'll just dive in and have some fun, and mainly about laughs and drinking something and, I don't know, shooting
awesome.
The BS. I see Roger and Beast. Folks are hanging out.
Definitely been an eventful couple of days of NASCAR.
No kidding, right? We're excited to get started. Let's see. I guess we just go ahead and do this thing. Sherwin, what do you think?
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
Skew.
Let's do it. Cool. Jackson, you ready?
Yep.
Awesome. Here we go. We are recording now. Welcome, y'all! That's right. This is the Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast. I'll figure out the name of our podcast after 363 episodes at some point. Anyway, today is October 6th, 2020. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace in the PTM Podcast Studio in Atlanta, Georgia. You're listening to episode number 263, and this podcast is sponsored by you. That's right. Go to patreon.com/PTM. Join the What You Drink Club for as little as $1 a month. Get that free koozie and some stickers. Best part is, every cent this year, we're once again donating to sponsored drivers. So join the PTM Posse today. Be a part of the sport you love. This week's show brought to you by our official sponsors at that $5 and up per month level. They are Aaron Bearden, Robert Keblinger, Colby McClain, Eric Kepner, Ryan Keefer, Patrick Cleary, Jeff Brown, Brandon Kraft, Kathy McDonald, Stacey Wright, Brandon Carl, Ricky Porter, Julie Bosley, Eddie Grizzler, Young Motorsports, David Mullins, Patrick Johnson, Brett Morris, Joseph Smoke, Fred Rosado, Chad Napa, Stacey Coleman, Lisa Janana, Rick Houston, Sarah and Barry, Evan Roller, Grant Harrison, Matthew Bishop, Matthew Camper, Harry Bolzania, Evan Jones, Les Miller, and Jumpy Bob. Woohoo! All right. Well, with that, completely botched the intro like multiple times, so it can only go up from here. We'll bring on the co-host of the PTM podcast in the PTM North Carolina studio, Pregame Engineer Andrew Sherwin. What's up, dude?
Hey, man, what's going on?
Man, like I said, I don't know if you heard me doing that, but that was a struggle bus. I mean, I was definitely on the short bus today.
Yeah, well, sometimes you're the bug and sometimes you're the windshield.
Well, hopefully I'll just scrape myself off of that, and with that, we'll bring on our guest tonight. First timer on the PTM podcast, covering all things Atlanta sports. Y'all know what we think about that. Operator of the ATL Sports Wire at atlsportswire.com and at ATL Sports Wire on Twitter. How's that for consistency? Welcome to the show, Jason Fryburger. Jason. See, I should just start over or quit. Jackson.
Happy to be here.
Jackson, what's up, man?
Doing well. been a interesting and eventful weekend. Was able to attend the race on Sunday, but excited for the rest of these NASCAR playoffs here.
Man, we are too, and infinitely jealous that you got to go to that race. We'll get to that
Yeah.
here in a moment, but before we do, y'all know how we start this show. What are y'all drinking tonight? Oh,
Jackson?
Just a Mountain Dew for me.
Mountain Dew, my man. Sherwin, what you got?
I got Maker's Mark and Coke Zero here in my Braves glass,
You got
Big
the
win
courtesy
today.
of Taco Mac.
Braves glass, Braves hat. You're doing it all right. I've got a Chattanooga hat on. I don't know about all that. Jesse Iwuji shirt, though. You know, that's always fun. I've got the Jim Beam and LaCroix. I don't know what you're supposed to say. Did I ever tell y'all that story? I could go down a quick...
This sounds good.
Oh, man. I'll probably get sued for this one. Who knows? But I used to work with this fella, right? And Sherwin, now your parents, your mom taught French for, I was about to say 1,000 years, but, you know, that's making it sound like she's old or something. But she taught French.
30.
Yeah.
Every
30
bit of
years,
30.
Through her retirement and all that. And they go to France and stuff and all that. I'm pretty sure she would say LaCroix just because that's, you know, what you do, right? Well, I worked with this fella, and I'm telling you, we would walk into like a coffee shop, and you know, he's one of these Francophile people or whatever you want to call it. We walk in and he go, yeah, let me get a large coffee and a ham and cheese croissant. And I go, what the hell was that, dude? Like, he just busting out croissant. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, I mean, I speak decent Spanish, but I'm not like, yeah, I'm headed on down to Amarillo, Texas. Like, no, dude, it's Amarillo. Just
No, I can't pull that off.
say the thing, man. Like,
Well, we got Lafayette, Georgia, right? And I'm from Fayetteville, Georgia.
right.
You know, there's no Fayette or Lafayette.
right. So I don't know, man. It made me want to like take off my shirt and scream, "I'll have the freedom sandwich!" Woo! Like, just
Or let me get a Royale with cheese.
just
Because they don't know what the metrics or the standard unit system is. Quarter pounder, anybody? Pulp
yeah,
Fiction?
well.
No?
I'm with you. I got you. Pulp Fiction. Yeah. I wish I knew the I don't know whether to call it prayer or you know fire brimstone pre-killing you speech that Jackson did.
Oh, yeah.
Samuel
Well, that one and the one from Boondock Saints in
yeah.
Latin.
Yeah.
That's some cold-blooded, you know what.
It sure is. Oh, Jackson, this is how it goes on the PTM podcast. Never know what you're going to get besides a Jim Beam and LaCroix. Well, Jackson, we got plenty of Atlanta sports to talk about. We'll talk about it in a minute. But let's start with our specialty, what we're here for, NASCAR. And I understand you're among the newer fans. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I joined, I'd say, the NASCAR ranks of fandom in mid-May or so. I wrote a column on that yesterday on my website, but I'm just an avid Atlanta sports and UGA fan, was looking for something, anything live to bet on or watch and enjoy in the spring, you know, with the pandemic, and finally found NASCAR. I know they started up the iRacing right off the bat, and then they went to Darlington. So I was watching the first couple of races there, and then that's when I went to Talladega. I was just looking for an event to go to, and so I went with my dad for Father's Day, and then we went back after the rain out that Monday, and it was just the coolest thing I've ever seen. I just loved how fast they were going, the roar of the engines and everything. Everyone was having a good time and partying, and I know I only saw it at like 10% capacity, but it was still awesome. And just quickly became a big Chase Elliott fan from being a Georgia sports fan, everything. So kind of went from there, watched the Cup Series, and then around the 4th of July when Briscoe won at the Indy Road Course, really picked up Xfinity fandom as well.
Yeah. You know, we tell people all the time, and Sherwin will back me up on this, that if you're kind of a casual fan and you haven't been to a race, go to a race and you will be a super fan. It is
definitely
it's so different.
A huge difference. I tell all my friends that are, you know, all into the Braves and UGA, and they're like, oh, NASCAR, they just go around left turns for laps for hours. And I'm like, yeah, it's more than that.
Well, we'll talk about it here in a bit, but we've got a lot of right-hand turns coming up next season, Sherwin.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
6 road courses.
Hell of a cool announcement last week, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, let's start then with, or let's continue on, Jackson, with your specialty here, and talk a little bit of Braves. It feels like to me that I know there's like the Boston curse and there's these other curses, but we got out of the first round of the playoffs.
Finally, yeah.
Holy smokes, right?
That was huge for sure. And then the big win today, I loved how they came back and rallied. I was pretty worried when they were down 4-3. But I really hope they can get out of the NLDS and take that next step that they haven't been able to get for so many years.
Yeah. And what's the deal with these 2 p.m. or 2:08 p.m. games? I'm sitting there at work trying to like refresh.
Small market teams.
Yeah, so aggravating. I know Cincinnati, and as you mentioned, the Marlins being another small market, but just seems like it's like the Yankees and Dodgers privilege that they always get the primetime slots.
We know what talks about that we've talked about on a million times on the show, that the older fans, they're probably more like in their 50s and 60s at this point, that they got the 3 channels or the 5 channels or whatever it was, and one of them was going to be TBS Superstation.
Yeah, for sure.
And so there's Braves fans all over the place. Even if it's a small market, it's a
that was
big reach.
More before my lifetime, but I know that the Braves were like the Dallas Cowboys of baseball there for a bit.
Yeah. Sherwin, you were going to say?
Oh yeah, no, definitely America's team, and Atlanta, for everybody listening, is not a small market. It's a small market for Atlanta teams in terms of the pro side.
Yeah.
Except for maybe basketball, and then football always drives a lot more interest. But Atlanta really behaves a lot like a small market because nobody in Atlanta is from Atlanta.
Yeah, I'd say though for the Braves, it's a little different than the other teams because you have the Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, South Carolina type pull that those other teams don't really have.
That's a good point.
Oh yeah, 100%.
The whole
and
South.
And then when the Superstation was really in its heyday, a lot of people that were watching the Yankees, because that's the only thing that came on in North Carolina, or maybe Cincinnati, depending on what part of the state you're in, they started getting the Braves every night, and so there's a lot of North Carolina Braves fans too.
Yeah. Well, on top of that, Sherwin, we're not ancient here, but there's 2 teams that I could see every game when I was growing up. Obviously the Braves, but the other one was Chicago, the Cubs.
Oh yeah, WGN.
Yeah, the other Superstation. So, anyway, yeah, the big market stuff there. But yeah, breaking the curse of the first round for me was like that. That was. I feel like that we talk a lot about momentum here, and there's 2 sports that we're paying attention to in the playoffs. Obviously the NBA going on and all that, but so many playoff things going on. But getting out of that first round feels like I said, a curse is broken, and that we have a chance now. There almost feels like less pressure in the second round to actually do something.
But you can't overlook that, as I wouldn't say they did it. They kind of did it early in the game, and then they rallied back today. That the Braves are much more dominant than the Marlins on paper, but they're a feisty team that's gonna give you hell for as many innings as they can. So,
yeah, Sherwin, did you get a chance to watch it?
No, I didn't get to see 1 minute of it. It's just the way it is. Busy day at work. I knew what time the game started, but I had no opportunity between 2 and 5 to even look. But I did see all the stuff that the Braves posted on the Instagrams and the Twitters and the whatnot, and I saw that Acuna hit another moon ball to lead off a game, and then promptly got hit in his next at bat, which is, I'll just say what it is. It's bullshit. And then we did exactly what we thought these Braves were capable of doing when you get a good starting effort from your pitcher. You get to our bullpen, you're in trouble. And when we get to yours, balls be going over the fence. And that's exactly what happened in the 7th inning.
Is that what the difference is between this year and these previous years?
Yeah, the Braves generally they're considered to have the best bullpen in the game right now.
Mm-hmm.
We got a couple of good starting pitchers, but we can close a lot of those gaps, especially with a 29-man roster or 28 and a half, whatever we're calling it. So we got 15 pitchers. So bring it.
Yeah, and piggybacking off that note, I don't know if it's Snicker or Alex Anthopoulos who's making the final roster decisions right now, but I love how aggressive they're being with these playoff deadline rosters, and they left guys like Luke Jackson and Mike Fultonovich off the team, Ender Inciarte in favor of the Paches, and then your Yanoas and Bryce Wilsons for your inning-eating relief when a guy like Fried today didn't do as well, and you may need those guys later on in the week.
Yeah, 100%. With Pache, that's all about how do we put late in the game the best possible defense that we can assemble on the field at the same time, and that's why Pachet's there. We're not going to ask him to hit. We're just going to ask him to play center field and let Ronald move on over to right.
But I think he plays, or at least in the regular season, he sometimes plays favorites with guys like Markakis sometimes, and those are maybe his friends, and he just doesn't want to bench him or not give him enough at bats. But I feel like whoever's making these decisions right now is in like all in mode to win, and it just seems like a different vibe than the last couple of seasons.
Vibe.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Rusty.
You go for it.
Oh, I was going to say moving Freddie up to second just to get him that maybe half of an extra at bat over some short period of time is super important because Acuna gets on base. I mean, you have 3 of the top 5 OBP guys in the league, or at least in the National League this year, and those guys are batting 1, 2, 3. There's not a secret to that.
yeah. We're playing Moneyball, but we're pretty much writing it on our sleeve doing that. And Jackson, you had mentioned vibe, and that's something that back in the '90s, walking around, it was kind of like how northern Alabama, anything north of say the Piedmont, if that exists over there, you walk into Walmart and see the greeter. Hey, how you doing? Roll Tide. Like that. That's just how they greet each other, And here in Atlanta, in the '90s, hey, how you doing? Go Braves! Like that's what it felt like for so long, and I feel like we're starting to see more of that. You're walking around my office here in Atlanta, and folks you hadn't really talked to or seen before, and hey, they got Braves jersey on. You're walking around town, and you see the Braves hats and everything. I mean, everybody's coming together. It's really cool to see. And
I just love seeing that around playoff time.
Yeah.
You see it as well on like a college football game day. If you go to any Publix or Walmart or Lowe's or wherever in Atlanta, you're going to see a lot of Georgia shirts and jerseys, some Georgia Tech, some Auburn, maybe a couple Florida, Alabama.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mix in a little Tennessee when that's chock full of UT grads. But, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a growing interest in what's going on. And the reason is we've got young guys locked down for a long time. You've got MVP candidates all over the place. You got a Cy Young candidate.
Look out.
That's in the mix there too. I mean, this is what Rusty and I grew up with as the Braves.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. The future's bright, and given all the downsides so far this year with the Soroka injury and having to get through all those games with what I'd call junk pitching, and they're still where they are right now, and it's all coming together. It's really exciting.
Right on. Now, we're not here just to gloat because if we're talking about ATL sports, we're also talking about the Falcons.
Yeah.
Yeah, choke. Well, last night wasn't a choke. We just got our asses kicked.
I was kind of rooting for that, though. I want to win out of town. I don't know what it's going to take at this point. I mean, he's blown so many leads, gotten dragged by the teams like the Packers last night. I don't know what Arthur's waiting for.
It feels like, everybody said going into this season that, this is a make or break kind of season. Well, it's break. And how long are you going to break till something's got to change?
Yeah.
Wow. How good must you feel as an owner of a franchise to set an all-time negative record for the first team to ever go back-to-back with fourth quarter 15-point leads and lose?
For sure.
Yeah.
And then you couple that with the Super Bowl collapse that, of course, everyone makes fun of.
Well, and more power to them because it should be. It should be made fun of. It just is. It hurts. It's painful.
It's painful. I've never been, I'll admit, as much into the Falcons or very fair weather with them compared to the Braves or UGA, but I'm just like, what the hell is going on over there? And I just kind of tuned out because I know that, I'm not going to get all invested in it right now because they're not going to make any changes, and it's just the same old.
Yeah. So, Jackson, you're sitting here talking. I don't know if Sherwin prepped you for this one. You're sitting here talking to 2 Georgia Tech alums. So, and I know you talk UGA some. Speaking, Georgia Tech football here a bit. I don't know what to say right now. So we go out, we beat Florida State, and Florida State's always kind of it's toss up year to year what that looks like, and then it feels like Sherwin total collapse since then, and back to our, we're building again days. I don't know. What do you think?
I'd have to say,
go ahead, Jackson.
I did I wouldn't say I fully jumped in on the Georgia Tech bandwagon week 1 with the FSU win. I gave Sims a lot of praise and Collins. Had some Tech people coming after me for discounting them too much, but I thought it was an impressive win. I did. I picked them actually to beat UCF after getting a little too confident in that one, and then it kind of seemed it just played out the next 3-4 weeks that turned out Florida State was more just terrible, and Tech. I don't know that Tech's not terrible. I mean, they got the win, but I think you're kind of seeing it was more just Florida State being bad than Collins righting the ship so quickly. And I do have belief in him. I definitely think he's going to turn it around there. I just think it's going to take some more time.
Yeah.
I would agree with you. Go ahead, Rusty.
And it's recalibrating, which is something that Georgia Tech fans are very adept at doing because we've been doing it for a long time. All right, we beat Florida State. We're going to be somebody. And then it turns out Florida State sucks, and so do we. Okay, well, we'll just do our thing. Hey, they serve beer at our stadium now. That's kind of cool. Whenever we get to go back. So,
yeah, that'll be fun.
I keep saying, I mean, us nerds, man, we'll drink some dadgum beer during a game. So Georgia Tech Athletics should have about triple their normal take, even in COVID and having to have 1/10 capacity.
Oh, for sure, and especially being NASCAR fans as well. I see you can't have NASCAR without beer. So.
Oh well, that's that just goes hand in hand right there.
One day we might have to revisit the blog I wrote after our first race that we went to in 2004 because I was absolutely astounded by an in-the-moment joke that Rusty told because it just was the first thing that came to his mind because we knew you could bring it in. We just didn't realize how egregious you could be with it.
Oh, yeah.
So we marched in with a rollback cooler that had 65 beers in it for 3 people or 4. It was absurd.
Wow.
We all fell asleep in the stands at one point.
Could you bring in any type of bag back then? Because I know now with COVID they're doing the clear bag policies.
Oh,
you could. Yeah, it was as long as it wasn't glass, buddy. It goes.
Yeah. If it fits, it ships.
Yeah.
Oh man. Gentlemen,
people are getting really creative now in the pandemic with how they stock theirs and put it in. They've got these clear coolers I've seen. They've got rolling plastic bags and stuff. It's crazy.
Man, some NASCAR people they get that redneck ingenuity in them. It's got to be a clear bag. Oh, you don't say, huh? Watch this. So
I
hold my beer.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they still sell all the same beers they bring in. They're only, it's say it's $5 a can, which still compared to the Braves is nothing. But, why not bring up your own pack and save 15 more bucks or whatever?
Well, let's go ahead and tear it down and get into the report card. Here we go. Time to talk NASCAR a bit. We've got first period with Dega. So, Jackson, give us your perspective, man. You were there.
So I got to admit, because I moved houses this week and everything and pulled off a last-minute trip, I got there about the end of stage 1, and I left Atlanta 15 minutes before the green flag. And I'm talking to my dad, and I'm praying for cautions. And I think, didn't we break a record in stage 1 for cautions, I think?
Sounds about right. There was at least one red flag.
Yeah, I just know that by the time we got there and stage 1 wasn't even complete, and we were leaving Atlanta when the thing started, and I was blown away. So I got to see most of the big events. I was pulling into the parking lot during the first Kyle Busch crash that I think knocked, it was Almirola out of the race. And then from there, I was just blown away. I saw Jeff Gluck's Twitter poll on how the fans interpreted it, and I was shocked that it only got 75%. I thought it was the best race of the 4 I've been to in person, hands down. And I think NASCAR, I think because they like botched the ending with the rulings that affected it. But being there in person, the racing was top notch, and all the crashes and excitement. I haven't seen anything better.
Well, you're right about one thing. They had everything. The big one, they had yellow line violations. I mean, just drama everywhere. And lead changes.
Continued halfway home on the drive. Like, I thought I was disappointed. You know, Elliott only got 22nd. He's on the brink of elimination if he doesn't start at the Roval. And then you find out when you're getting off I-20 that they scored him 5th after a protest, and he's all good. And it was like, dang.
Yeah. So, Sherwin, let's talk about that a little bit. The yellow line stuff. I mean, we had Burrito getting busted, Chase getting busted, and then getting unbusted. And, I mean, there's been drama all over the, excuse me, not just Twitterverse, but, all across NASCAR fandom. What, if anything, needs to happen about yellow line?
I'm not sure. I tend to want to lean on the competitors that offer opinions on this, since I haven't done the thing, and I don't really understand a lot of all the nuances, or not the nuances, but like all the intricacies around how that's going to stop crashes. I think the reason why the rule exists right now is because NASCAR does not want to see another car hit the catch fence the way Bobby Allison did, which is what caused the restrictor plate to be invented. And then again with Carl Edwards off the Ryan Newman ricochet with the Brad Keselowski, who knew what the rule was and stayed on the line. And that caused, Carl to wreck. So I think they're trying their absolute best to avoid that situation at all costs. And there's always that law of unintended consequences that you're going to eventually find a situation where everybody's mad. Nobody's happy except for the fans of the guy who won. Yeah. And this is the kind of conversation that it generates.
Yeah. Did you think NASCAR got anything wrong?
I thought they got the Chase thing wrong, and that wasn't even because of subjectively being a fan. I looked at it and I was like, I don't know about all that. And so not only did they reverse his penalty, they gave that penalty to the car that pushed him down there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was quite the reversal. I mean, I was definitely glad to see it, being biased as a Chase fan, but I was like, dang, they really gave Buescher a penalty instead.
Yeah. I think one thing that it does is it kind of gives a black eye to that mantra that NASCAR's had for so long that says we want the fans who leave the stands to know exactly who won the race, and not only that, but who's second, third,
etc. They definitely failed at that one.
yeah, and so this kind of put a black eye on that one. I see.
Yeah, because being there in person, like Denny did his little burnout, and it kind of reminded me of like Chick Hicks winning in the Cars movie. It was like he was celebrating, and then they called him back to pit road for a second, and they did the replay, and all the fans that were still there were yelling like no, like wave it off that he didn't win. And I know that Denny like isn't one of the favorite drivers, but and that was mostly Chase fans, but they were all ticked off when they announced that there was no violation. I heard a lot of like, are you kidding me, and stuff like that. And then just kind of ended, went to the parking lot. Then I found out, that Chase got penalized, and I heard a couple groans as people got in their cars. And then I took to Twitter and, of course, expressed my frustrations with everyone else, and saw it got fixed about an hour later. So,
yeah. And Sherwin, I'm seeing in the chat wall here, old Beast says he likes what he heard on DBC, where they said ditch a yellow line for the last lap. What do you think about that?
I'm fine with it.
Does that put more cars into the catch fence? I mean, isn't that the time to do that, or do you think they stay down and then just slow down toward the end?
Well, I mean, of the ones that we've seen in the last handful or two hands full of years, it was Kyle Larson at Daytona in an Xfinity race, and it was, Carl at Talladega, as already mentioned. I don't know how many data points we need to suggest that we're doing everything we possibly can to keep people safe, but we have done a good enough job over the past 10 years of keeping people safe that they're starting to lose sight of that safety aspect of the puzzle. And I think we should caution ourselves before we make, a decision that might lead to an unsafe event.
Mm-hmm. So let's move on to second period here with the schedule. So it was just released right after last week's podcast. We were talking with Jeff Striegel and hypothesizing, and some information trickling in, but really there was no huge difference between what the rumors were at the time and what reality had. So just recapping, we've got COTA, we've got Nashville, we've got Road America, we've got Darlington as second race. Interestingly and amazingly, Atlanta second race. Indy Road Course, and the big elephant in the room with Bristol Dirt, All-Star race at Texas, no changes of playoffs, and then the things that are out, there's Dover out, Chicago out, Michigan, one of the Michigan races out, Kentucky out, and no more Brickyard, which is kind of interesting.
A lot of big changes.
Yeah. So big swings. We talked about it last week in terms of the bravery, if you will, to make some big swings, to do some big changes. They've done quite a bit. One that let's dive into this one a little bit. We did a little bit last week, Sherwin, and I think with a sort of bitten tongue, you were saying, I'm not so sure about this whole Bristol Dirt thing. And two things that I read I thought were quite interesting. First one was Richard Petty, who he pretty much said, we've spent our entire careers trying to solidify ourselves as a real sport, as a real thing. And he said, dirt track racing is not professional, so we're going backward. It'd be like taking a pro football team and going back to play at a high school field. I thought that was a very strong and unexpected reaction in a way, Sherwin.
Yeah, I don't hate what he said at all, because I guess I'm aligned pretty well with all the other attention that we've gotten from the people that regularly follow us, right? So we're in a bubble, so to speak, in that respect. But if we were going to run a dirt race, why would we cover up one of our only short tracks with dirt? It already has so much uniqueness to it anyway, and so much intrigue. Yeah, they'll probably sell tickets for the first year, but y'all better be prepared. Whoever actually gets those tickets, maybe it's everybody, if things start to come around in our favor on the viral stuff. But and they'll probably sell a bunch of tickets, but those cars are going to be doing, I don't know, 5 or 6 seconds slower lap times than what we're used to seeing at Bristol.
Mm-hmm. Jackson?
I went to the All-Star and the night race this year, and I just got to say, out of Dega and Bristol, Dega is my favorite for the racing, but Bristol, the stadium is so damn cool. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that factor at all is lost. I like the racing there, but I do think it's a shame you got two short track races now there. Why take one away? It's unique. We don't have many short tracks other than that in Martinsville, pretty much. I'd go somewhere where it's a true dirt track, where it's meant for that. If you're gonna race on dirt, I wouldn't, or add a third Bristol race, do one on dirt. I wouldn't take away one of your two crown jewel races there, but I may still go and check it out. I think it'll be cool, and I think after seeing it hyped up in the movie Cars and seeing all the little minor league dirt races, I just think it'll be cool to try it out in NASCAR.
I was intrigued by the King's analysis that he said, not just analysis, he blatantly said it. Like I said, dirt track racing is not professional. I was like, ooh, there's a lot of people that respect and listen to you who I'm not sure they would agree, look at Casey Kane today. Look at Kyle Larson. Yeah. It feels like now maybe what he's meaning, and I'm putting words in his mouth if I say this, but in NASCAR, you're talking about millions of dollars. In dirt, you're probably talking more hundreds of thousands. So maybe that's it, but that's throwing him a pretty big bone, Sherwin.
Yeah, it wouldn't be hundreds of thousands unless you're Kyle Larson right now. There's a lot of intrigue. Obviously, but it's not new. If you paid as much attention to the history as I do, and this is why I'm intrigued by the idea of Hendrick bringing back the number 25, because of Tim Richmond's dirt history, which is phenomenal, by the way. Turned the fastest lap at the track he ever turned his first lap at in a sprint car. That's special. It's been going on for 30-something years now in terms of that history. So I just don't – I thought Richard was really salty with his approach to how he says it, but he's from a different generation, and they say things different. Yeah. And I think what I would align with, though, is that it's not so much that it's not professional. It's that cup racing doesn't need dirt to put on a good show. We don't need something weird. We figured out what the weird thing to do that's fun. That's run on a road course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. And here's where I'm better aligned. I think Gluck had said it's like painting the Sistine Chapel with SpongeBob stencils.
Oh, I did see that one. Yeah.
So,
I think that's a bit extreme, but I mean, I like the comparison.
I like it too because I mean we understand Jeff's personality pretty well, but it's not. I mean, it's not unfair in a lot of ways, and another reason why I would align with that perspective is that if dirt racing is what you want to see, if that's your jam for a Friday or a Saturday night, almost everybody lives within a reasonable driving distance of a dirt track.
Yeah,
they don't all. They
Woodstock or I think.
Yeah, Woodstock.
Oh yeah, Dixie Motor Speedway, baby.
Yeah,
buddy.
I haven't been, but I've wanted to check it out. But I mean, like, you can go.
Winder Barrow.
Yeah. We've we'll have to set up an outing to Dixie. That place is just so much fun. I mean, the value that you get for I mean, it's almost the same as free, and that's not to like flex or anything. It's just like it's $15
like $5 or $10, and it's like bring your own food and all.
Yeah,
that's just sit in the stands. If you can back your truck right up to turn 2 for $20 a head in a pickup truck, and you bring all your tailgate stuff, lawn chairs, as much beer as your truck can carry. They don't care.
Yeah.
It's just different, and it's different good. It's different good.
No, it sounds awesome. I did notice, though, I mean, obviously, like, because it's not the big national event that NASCAR is, the prize money for your average Saturday race is going to be like $2,000-$3,000 instead of like hundreds of thousands or something.
Sure.
Correct.
Sure. But you know what? That $2,000-$3,000 means as much to these guys, or maybe more, than it does the $500,000 or million that goes into the purses at the big tracks.
For sure, because win or lose, Chase Elliott's still making bank every week. There's fans with his color and everything.
No doubt about that. I was reading it, and I think we talked about it last week a bit, that, very much Fox influenced here. So, they're, hinting and, tapping elbows and kind of going, hey, how about dirt racing at Bristol? It's an interesting development, I guess. But then, Atlanta in the mix. And so Atlanta, several things going on there. One, I'm ecstatic about Atlanta getting another race, obviously. But what happened behind the scenes for Atlanta to get a second race and for, like, Kentucky to not get a second one? And it seems like there's a lot of things in motion that we don't know about yet, Sherwin. And some of the things that they're talking about, hey, we'll do a repave. Well, while we're repaving, maybe a little bit of configuration change. And while we're doing all this construction, you remember this $1 billion casino project with roller coasters and stuff that we had? How about we talk about that thing again? Like, it seems like there could be a lot behind the scenes that we don't know about right now.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on the Atlanta one.
Have at it.
I mean, I've never been to the Atlanta race since I, got into NASCAR in mid-May, and they didn't have fans for that one, but definitely going to go to at least one of those next year. I did get to actually drive my car on the track in July. It was right after the Bristol All-Star. It was like a drive the track event. Mm-hmm. It's a cool place. I'm looking forward to it. I think in the stands it'll be fun. But I've heard from all the fans, and I've even seen on TV, the racing there isn't as good anymore because the track so desperately needs a repave, and it seems the drivers like Brad Keselowski don't really want that because they like the history of it and how it is right now. So I definitely think some changes need to be made to the track and all. And then I do anticipate that sports gambling is going to become legalized in Georgia, and they're going to have the $1 billion casino project going there in the next 5-10 years. So I think it was Bob mentioned that the second race helps fund some of that development. and I'm looking forward to it. I also like the prospect of maybe the second Atlanta race being a night race as well.
Yeah, Sherwin?
Yeah, well, what I would say to you, Jackson, about the whole perspective on the surface is the folks that are in the same crowd as Rusty and I are in, which is the same crowd mostly as the drivers are in, is that the rough surface allows for a couple of more variables to be introduced to how you run a race. Tire management starts to become part of the equation. I personally would like to see the low downforce, high horsepower situation there. I don't know that we'll get that, but Atlanta has in the past lended itself to being a getaway race where somebody just goes and gets gone. Kurt Busch comes to mind. But it also has had some pretty amazing moments like Jimmy and Jeff. And it's been 10 years now, but that was still, I mean, that's a sight to behold. For 20 laps, they were the only thing going on in the race because it was so wild. The lines they would pick, if they pave Atlanta, I mean, the biggest fear is what happened at Charlotte and what happened at Michigan and even to a lesser degree at Kentucky was you got this big old track, but there ain't but one lane you can run in. Mm-hmm. And that's no good.
Yeah. And they're definitely, if we're going to repave it and we're going to have the bulldozers out there, we might as well start looking at, like I said, maybe a reconfiguration, maybe more of an oval type of situation. And on top of that, I feel like I'm coming around to an Atlanta repave, and I hate that I am because the reason I'm coming around is that I don't think NASCAR has shown that they're going to go back to the days of the package that really shined at Atlanta and the car that really shined at Atlanta. Sherwin, you remember me and you watching Casey Kane just ticking off a tenth every lap. Like, you just be consistent, and the fastest guy out there was going to get to the front. And I just don't feel like right now, and I don't know if that's a paving problem either. I mean, we might repave it and it just exacerbates the issue. But there's opportunities here too for reconfiguration. Like I said, I saw stuff talking about oval like a Michigan or to a degree a California or something like that.
Well, the original configuration of Atlanta, which by the way is the original 1.5 mile super speedway is what they called it at the time. It's not anymore thanks to Talladega and Daytona, but in their current states. But it used to be a pure oval, and the front stretch used to be where the back stretch is now. And it was designed based on purely on what Americans wanted out of a muscle car, or at that time a big body car with a lot of motor, which was 1/4 mile drag strips and 1/2 mile turns. That's what that place used to be before the quad oval SMI takeover. So it wouldn't shock me at all if they said, all right, we're just going to extend the stands down back into where some of the track is right now. They'll have to figure out what they're going to do with Legends. If they do that, that's going to be part of the puzzle because that's a development process for NASCAR. But there are going to be a lot of people that will be excited about that, and they're going to have to figure out how to start with a surface to have some roughness to it.
Yeah.
I agree. One thing I want to ask y'all is with the 1.5s like Atlanta, and I know like Harvick right now, I'm going to say likely is going to win the championship, not guaranteed, but won the regular season, and he's one of the top drivers. But it just seems so repetitive to me all summer, and I know I'm biased as a Chase fan, but it's like it's not a road course or a super speedway, and it's just a 1.5. It's going to be Harvick or Hamlin like every damn week winning, and that kind of like annoyed me to some extent. I mean, I credit to them; they're great racers, but I feel like NASCAR is trying to fix that a little bit and maybe keep its audience because it gets stagnant.
Well, I wonder about that too, and I wonder how much data that is actually available for reasonable process on that. Every racetrack can put on a stinker. There was, 12 years ago, people were raising almighty hell about how they repaved Bristol with brand new concrete, and then the very next year they ground down the top because all anybody could do is run the top. And so
I still complain about that repave.
Right. Well, people are going to complain anyway. That's just part of it. That's one of the things you learn that those are the loudest people, especially in the Twitter space. And at times I'm one of them. So, I'll own some guilt there. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't think a reconfiguration, if at all, needs to be back to the original mile and a half.
Yeah, and we gotta talk about the other side of the coin too, which is the cars, where the cars right now, the way that they can get out front. Sherwin, you just talked about this, and just drive away. The solution, the Band-Aid or whatever it is that NASCAR put on that was, okay, well let's kind of govern them, restrict them a bit, whether it be horsepower or whatever else, and downforce. And bunch them up more. But that wasn't really what made it great before. What made it great before was that they just couldn't get out there like that. Clean air didn't mean an extra tenth of a second.
Yeah, the 1.5s, it's all about the clean air if you don't have much tire wear these days.
Yeah, and so, it mattered a little bit. You got a little bit, but the fastest guy behind you, I mean, now y'all got a race for it. Whereas, if you gain 2/10 by being up front, ain't nobody going to catch up 2/10. You know what I mean?
No, and there'd be guys on old tires that could outrun a lot of the guys on a set of 4 new ones just because they were out front.
Yeah, and that's where the scratched up surface mattered too, because Sherwin, we used to make fun of Jeff Gordon, and love the guy, but we'd make fun of him for just roasting his tires. He'd take a 3-second lead at Atlanta, and you're like, okay, dude, well, we're only 10 laps into this run. You're about to just be rolling on rims here in a minute. So
yeah, well, the package has a huge deal, and the tire plays a role, and there's some competing interests there. Atlanta is not a track where you want to run a high downforce. We had that. It failed. It was called IROC. Was it fun to watch? Yeah, I saw one of them. I thought it was neat just because of what it was, but it was an exhibition. It wasn't a cup points paying race. It was, 150 miles or something. It wasn't 500 miles. So the package matters. They need to be running 1,000 horsepower. They need to be running about 1,250 points downforce, and let these guys go where they're best. I mean, that Harvick is killing at Atlanta and other mile and a half because he got something in his brain how to get to the bottom at places where, the car may not want to run the bottom if you don't know how to drive it that way. And a lot of guys don't, but it also offers, the high side to people that's where they do. How many times have you heard the rhetoric that if Kyle Larson makes it to the top 4 to Homestead, y'all better watch the hell out because he runs the high line better than anybody else except maybe Junior, when Junior was the best at it. That's up for debate, and we don't need to get into that debate, but you just need multiple lines. That's what you need. And the thing with Goodyear in terms of the competing interests is they have a marketing plan they have to put together that says this is why you should buy Goodyear tires. And it can't be that everybody's bitching about the tire being so hard it never wore and you could put 2 tires on at a place you never were supposed to, like Darlington 10 years ago when they repaved that joint. And you also don't want people hitting the wall at Michigan at 212 miles an hour like Casey and some other guys have done. Because that's dangerous as hell.
Right. Yeah. And, oh, shoot. What was I going to say about it? But, yeah, it's just, like I said, we got to talk about the package, too, and we're talking about that stuff and making sure that, we're not going to Atlanta has an opportunity here, I guess the way to put it, to really make something. And if we make it something that really works for the old cars, we're just not going to see something. So, anyway. Let's talk about the silly season a bit. Very related. We have Bowman taking over the 48 car in 2021. How about that, Sherwin?
I was kind of surprised that was the way they went, but I'm not surprised that Ally's influence about being on a championship brand was the way they preferred to go. So basically, the key cogs of the 88 team are going to move over into the 48 shop and rebrand as the 48, which they're in the same shop. If you remember, Rusty, when we went and visited, The 48 and the 88 are in the same wing. So they have 2 wings at HMS, and the 9 and the, what's the other car number? 24 are on the other side. I didn't expect that to be the way it went. What I did expect is whoever the fourth driver to be is not going to be driving the number that team has represented lately. I thought it would be the 48. Looks like it's going to be the 88. Wouldn't be at all shocked if Rick decided to go 5 from his original number from All-Star Racing back in 1982, I think, with Jeff Bodine. But I would choose Tim Richmond's number because I think the driver that appears to be headed to that car is a very good fit for the brand that was Tim Richmond's Folgers 25.
Yeah, yeah. And so interesting timing that we have, I mean, maybe this is tinfoil hat or whatever, but Larson's kind of public address of his journey over the last few months and his desire to return all happens
all lined up perfectly.
All happens.
I think that was intentional.
Right, right. So is this one of those worst-kept secrets? What do you think, Jackson?
I mean, I've been following it, and I know lately everyone's saying Larson. I was thinking even this morning before all that came out, could it be Eric Jones? But I think I'm leaning Larson on this one. And then on the 48, to mention that one, I'm a little surprised that they're going to fill Jimmy Johnson's shoes by just, moving over Bowman. But I think it's brilliant as far as keeping his merchandise sales up and helping Team Hendrick that all of his fans are now going to buy the 48 gear and change out all their numbers and everything and hitch covers and stuff like that. So I think it's like a win-win for Hendrick, and they're just going to boost their sales and everything.
Yeah, and it might be opportunistic in that, okay, well, if we're talking Larson, let's not put necessarily him in the 48, and I love the idea with the Tim Richmond number, Sherwin. And so who do we move over there? Well, Bowman is, that makes – given Kyle Larson, here's those logic problems. Given Kyle Larson, then Bowman to the 48 makes a lot of sense. Not given Kyle Larson, it's interesting. But so that points to strong correlation between all that stuff. Like I said, my tinfoil hat was pretty strong seeing those two things come out around the same time. And that's not to take away from, Larson's being heartfelt about this, but it was, very much timing related.
I kind of took it that they don't want an outside driver to replace the legendary Jimmy Johnson just yet in the 48 car. They kind of want to keep that in the Hendrick family, like how Chase went to the 24, and then it was Byron after Jeff Gordon's retirement. Yeah,
and chasing the 9 is just, the way things are supposed to be. I'm about to drive through Dawsonville here on Highway 9 this coming weekend. Like, that's just the way things are.
Yeah, so, with Bill running the 9 for so long.
Yeah. So,
well, we've got our own personal attachment, coming out of some different changes in the sport with Bill retiring, and I pointed Rusty at Rusty Wallace, but he retired in 2005, and then we just kind of latched on to Casey Kane, and so that 9 has been a part of our NASCAR fandom for a long time. So to see it come back, obviously, with the hometown kid, and I've been watching Chase since he was like 9.
Yeah, a lot of 9s. I've got a lot of 9 gear that is easily repurposed.
I just think it was strange, like when Chase was in the 24, I like how they kept the Jeff Gordon scheme alive for most of Byron's races. I know he has a couple alternate schemes, but I like that fire pattern scheme. And then when it was the Napa royal blue and yellow, it just didn't seem right to me. Like Chase's meant more for the 9.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk playoffs a bit. Right now, as they stand, Logano and Bowman are in, plus 21 and 22 points each. Kyle Busch, Austin Dillon are out at minus 21 each. It feels like one of those, well, if you got a heartbeat and you start the race and nobody wins, then nobody that's below the line wins, then we're good. We still got Boyer and Almirola further down, so certainly win chances there. And especially going to a Roval.
Those two have to win to advance.
Yeah, absolutely. And so going into Roval, and we talked about it before, Kyle Busch kind of saying, well, we'll be out in the next round anyway, and that coming true if it's, if we're not at a win situation. But Sherwin, what do you think chances are for anybody outside right now? We talked last week about, taking somebody versus the field. What do you think about like Kyle Busch, Austin Dillon, Boyer, and Almirola versus the field.
I don't know that I like that bet. If I was going to be putting my money in the pot, what I would say is Kyle and Clint are both very good road racers. Almirola, maybe he's sneaky, like a top 10 kind of guy, where you don't expect it at a road course. Dillon, forget about it. That's 25th or worse, unless something really weird happens.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not taking any one of them against the field because the field includes folks like Chase Elliott and includes folks like everybody we've been talking about every week, the Harvick, the Hamlins, the Brad Keselowskis, even Joey Logano, who's currently in. Alex Bowman, could do something there because that's what the field is in that case, and I'm just not seeing any
Ryan
one
Blaney,
of them making
won
waves.
I think 2 years ago.
Say that again, there, Jackson.
And also Ryan Blaney, I think, who won it 2 years ago.
Yeah, he won the first one.
Yeah, and he's got nothing to lose at this point, so make some waves, make something happen. So it is a. We feel like I feel like we're in a consensus here, and it is a tall hill to climb. For those folks.
I wouldn't take that bet, but I also wouldn't count Kyle out because, we've said it all year, and the broadcast says it every week. You can't count Kyle out even though he's winless. But I remember at the Daytona road course, he ran pretty well, and I think he got in a wreck or something went wrong. I remember, but he was running up there with Elliott and Truex for a while.
I said that all season about Jimmy Johnson. Do not count Jimmy Johnson out. He makes playoffs. He's consistent. He does it. And I got burned. And I ain't getting burned a second time. I'm not thinking that suddenly Kyle Busch has a light switch that turns on or that. And really, it's not just Kyle Busch. It's that team. It's that car. It's everything that goes into that. And I don't know how. I would be very surprised.
He's super talented and all. I don't really like his attitude, although he's pretty funny, and it's good for NASCAR, I think, to have that villain role. But it's just crazy to me all the bad luck he has. We talk about Chase Elliott always gets robbed at the end of races with a late caution or running out of fuel, but Kyle Busch, every week it's just some random wreck or blows a tire or something happens this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So last one here. Sherwin, I saw that Haley Deegan possibly making a truck debut soon at Kansas. They kind of I don't know, buried the lead or whatever you want to call it, but like her name appears on the entry list, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, well, I think that's what we thought was going to happen, despite the fact that there's a lot of conversation around, has she really done enough where she's at to get to trucks? But she's got marketing power, and as long as she doesn't upset Ford the same way she upset Chevy and Toyota. Yeah, that's probably the next step. I don't know, which team they're targeting, but yeah, Ford Performance, Haley Deegan, that's the thing right now. She's going to have to start behaving a little better, probably.
Mm-hmm. Not make so many enemies there. Gentlemen, it's time to gas it up. Let's do that. Oh, yeah. It is the Roval, the one that I was super skeptical about the first time we ran it and then had a blast watching it and anticipate having a blast seeing it again this time, even though we're, whatever it is, three years into it, whatever. Yeah, it's it's exciting. It is. There's so much that can happen. Sherwin, I would even let me see if I want to say this. I think I do. I would even say, going back to our last topic, that I'll ask this to you. I know I'm stumbling over words right now. Boyer versus Kyle Busch. Who are you taking as a bet for, not necessarily 1-2 finish, but who's going to finish higher? And I feel like I could say Clint Boyer right here.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I'm with you on Clint. I think Clint, despite the fact that his radio is maybe equally as volatile as Kyle's, it's just volatile in a wildly different way. And I don't have a large data set for Clint Boyer overdriving his car. Mm-hmm. I think he's a little bit more calculated than Kyle is. And I think if Kyle, knowing he has to win, if he starts sniffing the top 5, he's probably going to do some things with his car that may cause one of the most talented drivers in the sport to run out of talent.
Yeah. You just say it's tortoise and hare, is what that feels like. Yeah, Jackson, what do you think?
He said, I think that's a really tough one because both have had their fair share of bad luck or crashes this year. I'm going to go Kyle just because his energy and drive, and like you said, if he finds his way up there and thinks he has a shot, he's going to go all in, balls to the wall, Joey Logano mode, and I think he's going to pull out a surprise or something. I don't think Kyle would be afraid at all to wreck the leaders for the win or anything, especially with it being do or die. So I'm going to go with Kyle. I don't think Boya really has that edge as much.
I understand where you're coming from. For me, I already said it. If you've been burned once this season backing a veteran, I ain't doing it twice. Dadgummit. So that brings us to picks. Gentlemen, I'm picking Kyle Busch for this right now. I'm joking. Yeah, let's do it. Sherwin, last week, you picked Blaney, who finished 25th. I picked Almirola, who finished 37th. And
that's Talladega.
Jeff Striegel picked Austin Dillon, who got 12th. Interestingly, had he picked his brother, Ty Dillon, he would have gotten 3rd. So funny how that works out, like Jackson just said, at Talladega. I think all of those guys, I'd have to go back and look, but I think all those guys might have had laps led, Sherwin.
More than likely, especially Brad, for sure. I know Almirola led because I watched him do it.
Yeah.
Because you picked him, so I was paying attention. I was like, so I think 3 of the 4 of us picked guys who have led this race, and only 2 guys are still running, or whatever the joke was. But yeah, I mean, we were all over it in terms of guys leading laps.
Yeah. So with that, Jackson, why don't you give us a pick for the Roval?
I mean, I really want to go Chase Elliott out of bias and stats and everything. I definitely think he's going to run a top 10, probably top 5. But my gut tells me for some reason, because everyone's picking him, that it's going to be maybe a Truex upset or someone like that. I think we haven't really heard from him in the last couple of weeks, so I feel like he pulls it out.
All right, stone cold lock of the century, Martin Truex Jr. there. Sherwin, I don't know where you're going with this, because I can go several people, but I would agree in a way that it's Chase's to lose at this point. He has some strong finishes. He's coming off the emotional roller coaster of this last weekend, even in the last couple hours of what happened toward the end. I got to go Chase Elliott, and maybe I'll stop picking him after this time. But I've been saving my Chase pick this round to go with the Roval. So Sherwin, what's it going to be?
That's a great question. I've been mulling over a couple. I think I'm going to go with Blaney.
Blaney for 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, that is 2 weeks in a row, isn't it?
Yeah.
I seem to be making a habit of this.
I picked him to win Bristol, and that didn't go too well.
I love it. All right, Truex, Chase, Blaney. We'll be watching them. We'll be watching everybody. With that, gentlemen, it's time to close this thing out. I can't believe it's already been an hour once again, but is what it is. Jackson, why don't you tell the folks where they can find you? What's coming up next?
You can find me on ATL Sportswire on Twitter, Instagram, just about everywhere, atlsportswire.com. Always open to talk NASCAR with y'all, and thanks for having me on.
Right on. Sherwin, close us out. Tell the folks where they can find us.
Yes, sir. You can find me at Pregame Engineer on Twitter, at Andrew L. Sherwin on Instagram. You can find PETM Podcast and just about anywhere you'd want to find it, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, you name it. We're all over that.
That's right.
Rusty, where you at?
Right. As always, I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace at Tailgate Mayor. You can find us, like Sherwin said, PETMpodcast.com, at PETM Podcast. I can't open or close the show today. Ladies and gentlemen, we can't wait to see the Roval. Can't wait to talk to y'all next week. It's going to be a fun one. We will see you then. Enjoy the race.
Skew! All right.
Gentlemen, that's a wrap. Good times.
Did I wait long enough to get off the YouTube or the iTunes there, or did that close the show?
Oh, we were good. We were good by probably 1 or 2 seconds.
Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's not. I wasn't trying to get into the show.
Wasn't trying that time. Yeah, I'll get this thing all exported and set up and moved over to iTunes and everything. Awesome. Yeah, Jackson, we don't do any sort of editing or anything like that. I'm just playing stuff as we feel it. And
I like it.
Appreciate you being on, man.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Had a blast.
Absolutely.
Just looking forward to watching the last 5 races here. I'm so thankful for NASCAR. I feel like they've nailed everything since this whole COVID thing started.
They really have surprisingly done a good job. And we've applauded them every week for their approach.
Only thing I don't like is I don't know if I'd say I don't like, but the officiating some stuff with the calls and all, which is going to happen. But as far as like hosting the races, allowing fans at these different tracks, they've nailed it all.
Yeah, and I know it's unique in NASCAR to be able to do that, but I think you're right in that of all the things going on in all the other sports with games being canceled and stuff happening, NASCAR put together a protocol for this thing. They put together, they played it week by week to see what they could do. They had to negotiate with tracks and governments and stuff that I wouldn't even want to have to talk to. And you know, we got a season out of it, and we got a real season out of it. We didn't get some half-baked season or, you know, we're only going to play 10 games or whatever. It was, you know, it's been real. So it'll feel like whoever is crowned champion at the end won a NASCAR championship, not won a NASCAR championship in 2020.
And the fans not being at some tracks was unfortunate, but when these guys are going 150, 200 miles an hour in these cars, they don't really live up off the fans. Like Chase Elliott sees the fans, but that's not going to really affect his race. So,
right. Well, I'm getting this thing all set up and done and everything. Let's see.
See, I don't think it's in his blood not to race. That's the thing. Exactly. I think there are some of those guys that do sort of take that, well, let me just get what I can get, and we'll see. I just don't see that happening.
No, agreed.
I got to ask
exactly. Alan Gustafson wouldn't allow it.
No.
First of all.
Who do you guys think will pull this thing out and win the Cup?
Well, and see, that's the thing with the way the playoffs are. I mean, obviously Harvick should win. It feels like a few years ago when Truex won it, and we were like, it would be a crying shame if Truex didn't win it, because he absolutely has dominated this whole thing and you know, deserves to be the champion, and he was. This year, it feels like Harvick has dominated the thing, deserves to be champion. He has proven that he is the best driver this season. But, you know, you get to Phoenix, and who knows? You know, anything can happen there. So it's a any given Sunday thing. I don't see, you know, I see it as, I called the Roval Chase's to lose. I see the championship as Harvick's to lose.
And if it wasn't Harvick, let's just say worst comes to worst and he gets caught up in a crash at Phoenix or blows a tire late in the race or something, who would you give that edge to?
I mean, you know, it's Harvick's 1A or 1B or whatever to Harvick is got to be Hamlin this year. You know, we've been not so quiet about not exactly being Hamlin fans, but I mean, you got to respect the way he's been driving, and he doesn't have that competition from somebody like a Kyle Busch or something. And Brad is consistent, but he's not consistently finishing first. So, you know, those are, I mean, I know it's obvious to say Harvick Hamlin, but you know, it would be silly to step out on a ledge and try to act like I know something that I don't. Sure.
Yeah, I would add Joey Logano to that equation. He's another guy that's proven he can win on any kind of racetrack. And it's just going to, I mean, that's the nature of doing playoffs. This is probably not exactly what NASCAR wanted, but in a lot of ways it is, in that there is some mystery all the way to the last race.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of purists that don't like that because it's not like, sure. I mean, it's wildly different than every other racing series system that we're aware of. But I mean, this is the National Touring group of series. I mean, the trucks and Xfinity and Cup, they should be different. There should be something different about them. So while I balked at the playoffs when they started it, I was like, all right, well, we'll see where this goes. I mean, I'm getting better at that.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's so hard to keep up with all the rules, especially as like a first-year fan of it all. Because I mentioned I only watched like the 500, and then if it was on some random Sunday, I'd maybe tune in for a bit. But it took me probably a month to fully understand the whole playoff system. And I mean, there's still some things that are confusing, but I do like. I mean, it keeps you intrigued, and it's entertaining for fans that are into it. And that suspense level that Harvick's dominated so much, but it's not a foregone conclusion that he's going to win.
Mm-hmm. Correct. And that, I mean, there's a lot of value in that winner take all, that game 7 moment. The problem that I have with it is it's not a game 7 moment. It's a game 1 moment. You know, there's no best of any amount of races and then you win the deal.
Of a Final Four.
But it's probably the closest thing that we can do to, to align with stick and ball in that we've proven this year that we can race twice in the same week because we had to. And I hope that they take that into account for the summer stretch.
That's something we didn't talk about, that they did not do any weekday races for the schedule next year. I thought that was interesting. I thought they might sneak in one. You know, maybe one of the double headers ends up being a Sunday, Tuesday or something, but didn't do that.
Yeah, I thought that was oddly weird. I mean, I'm sure they made that judgment based on what they ratings, can predict ratings will be, and what the value of those commercials are. Obviously, I know you understand that, Rusty. Mm-hmm. It is weird to me because I think there is a lot of value to me, at least from my perspective. Not even having kids, not being married, in like July being a summer stretch type situation. Now, obviously, they don't want to take away from the other summer series that are actually feeding NASCAR drivers to NASCAR. So they wouldn't want to step all over, Charlotte Tuesday Thunder, and they wouldn't want to step all over Atlanta Thursday Thunder. And I know all the SMI tracks have their own Thunder version of that weekly Legends, Bandoleros, and then whatever other series they run. So you have to be careful about that. But those are local races. That's like your dirt track stuff that we talked about earlier. I mean, you can either choose to DVR the actual, the Cup race and go to watch your local stuff and come back and watch it. Or you can say, you know what, I'd rather watch the Cup race and I don't go to the local race. And I don't know what the balance there is, but those are decisions that are going to be made by people. And I don't know. The idea of Monday night races in the summer to me is super cool because we know that the number one television show in all of the world is Monday Night Football. Mm-hmm. And there's just something magic about Monday night. You come off a weekend, maybe you're just a baseball fan, maybe you're not a fan of any sport at all except NASCAR, and you're like, Monday night, man, I get off shitty-ass Monday at work, and I get to come home and watch a race. You know this.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Or the aspect of doing in-region coupled races where you race on Monday or Tuesday or even Wednesday at Bristol, and then you run a race at Martinsville or Nashville. Like, the proximity is so much that you could plan a vacation around that very easily.
That's a good idea. You could, like you said, if it's especially in the summer, you could hit both or as a family trip or something.
Yeah, you could hit 2 races and only have to take 5 days of vacation, mm-hmm. which is a lot for most of working America to have to do.
They tried to do that with the Daytona Homestead week-long thing, but I was thinking about that and I just laughed. Unless you're some like rich elite, which those guys aren't even, in my opinion, really going to NASCAR races, I don't know who's going to be able to go to Daytona and just take off a week of work to go to Homestead.
You have to be dedicated to NASCAR being your top priority in terms of the way you like to enjoy in-person entertainment. And there is one thing I wanted to talk to you about when you talked about being at Talladega. And obviously this year's weird for a lot of reasons. But if you get a chance to go back, the infield is where it's at. And as Rusty and I sort of alluded to, we have tended in the past to, especially that early Talladega race, to just go ahead and plan a lake weekend or a late spring getaway kind of deal, and just not be all that worried if we don't make it back for the race, because we know what's going to happen on television. In person, that's a wildly different animal, particularly on the infield.
And it has the same effect, though. Like that sort of chill that you get going to the lake or going out, making a weekend. You get that in the Dega infield, where when you're watching the race, you're not glued to something. You're just chilling out with a cooler in the middle of the field there, and just having a good old time. Just it's so chill, but also so exciting. It's
I
like,
bet.
And there is no
want to camp, but obviously COVID's limited that. I know they had some this weekend, but you have to have like a big RV, and like it's pretty expensive until they open it fully back up for the big one on the boulevard or whatever it's called.
Yeah. Well, obviously we have to suspend our commentary as it relates to COVID, because we haven't had to experience that at a racetrack yet, or gotten to, for that matter. But if you do get a chance to go to Talladega and be on the infield, there is no substitute for walking all the way down Talladega Boulevard, which is a mile long. It's worth the walk. Watch the cracks in the concrete. I think Rusty boogered up his toe a little bit one night.
I still have a scar. That was nasty. Yeah. I haven't bled like that in a while.
I think he gave a pint of blood to the ground at Talladega that night. But going all the way down there during a cup race in the middle of turn 1 and 2 and watching those cars look like they're staring you in the face because that banking is so high, there's no substitute for that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
What's the view like down there in the infield? Because I wondered, like, does that ruin your perspective at all of the race?
It changes it.
No, it really doesn't. I mean, I would say you've already seen one from the stands, so you already have that perspective. What I would tell you is I've seen two cup races from the stands and an Xfinity race, and I would say I would suffer through any agony around not being able to see the whole track because the campers are tall, for what's going on in the campground.
Well,
and the opportunities
aspect,
you have. Go ahead, Rusty.
Well, I was saying before, like, what do? We hop in the back of a truck, we ride over to the grass, we set our chairs down. Now, I don't know how it is now because they've sold that out to campers and stuff, but if you know some folks, wink, wink, that that have inns over there. You just set up a couple chairs and you're chilling watching a race, and you don't have that experience. Maybe you have it like at Phoenix on the Rattlesnake Hill. Maybe you have it in a couple other places, but nothing compares to just being able to see a race like that, where you get to, like I said, sit down in your lawn chair in a nice manicured lawn, prop your feet up on your cooler, drink some beers, and there's a whole race going on in front of you. It's that. It's the experience more than it is the racing, and the racing has been pretty darn good.
Which is already awesome. So
yeah, and the racing's been really good. I would have had to been there. It's hard to say when you're not there what the actual race is like, and you were there, so you had a blast watching it. So that's great.
Yeah, it was awesome, and the June one. What I'd say though, stadium wise, I know I mentioned on the podcast, I love Bristol. I just thought it was so cool how it was like the big house at Michigan or something, or Ohio Stadium, but bigger, and there was a whole race going on. I liked how at Bristol, the weather, that was like the first weekend it got cool here in the South, and we were basically tailgating in this lot, and it was just nice, and I think it was kind of like, almost like the Dega infield, but without the track and everything, and then you got to go in.
Yeah, That's been our experience. I think the reason why we've had such awesome experiences at our last two Talladega adventures is because of somehow managing to glob on to some really cool supporters of the podcast and get involved with a group of people that's like 20 deep. And, they do it all out. They're all on bumper pulls, nice bumper pulls. And, we're just like, hey, do you mind if we flip a tent up right over here? And they're like, hey, light it up, buddy.
That's awesome.
and we just make sure we engage in enough medication to where we get a good night's sleep.
Is that y'all's favorite track, or like which ones have you been to that are your favorites?
Oh, everything has, it's like picking a favorite child, right? Where you probably know in the back of your mind what your favorite child is. No. It's just different is what it is. It is so, you said it. The first time you walk into Bristol, you're like, they ain't fixing to fit 40 cars around this track. You got to be kidding me. That is a perspective that every NASCAR fan needs to see, is walking into Bristol and seeing that for the first time. Every NASCAR fan needs to camp on the infield and watch a race from the infield at Talladega. That is an experience you don't get anywhere else. Martinsville, amazing stuff. We've spent more time at the Atlanta racetrack than anywhere else, and got stories that we can't tell on the podcast from there. Shoot, all over the place. Even at Charlotte, it might not even be the Charlotte track, but the fact that you get a dirt race to go watch beforehand at the dirt track that's right there is like a bonus. So there's,
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So, I mean, just so many cool things about each track and what they put on and what they have. Michigan, what amazes me at Michigan is that the media center on the infield is up against pit road, and they've got glass and everything right there, and you can walk along pit road too. But that's just really unique and a cool perspective. You go in and grab you a Coca-Cola, and there's cars pitting right next to you.
Dang. That's pretty sweet. Have you all been to Indianapolis as well?
Sherwin has.
I have. I went to the Indy 500. It's 2 years ago. Not 2 years ago, a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did my first full Indy weekend, all of it. And this is why I would encourage you to keep on doing what you're doing, Jackson, is we've had several of these adventures to racetracks that we met the person that we were going to stay with when we got there, in terms of in person. And so we met Brett Morris at Bristol. Mm-hmm. And then I just said, hey, man, he invited me. He said, you come on up to Indy for the Indy 500. We got a whole weekend set up. You can stay with us. No big deal. Just do it. I said, I already bought the ticket to fly to, I flew to Indy. But yeah, I mean, and that was like, we didn't meet until we met in person. We're kind of meeting in person here on this video chat, thanks to Zoom, but in person, that's one of the cool things. And so what I would encourage you to do is, especially if you're interested in any kind of the media perspective on things, or just being in the know and meeting cool people, is you go to a racetrack, you go to the Tweet Up. Just make that part of your schedule. Mm-hmm. Because you will meet people that you would otherwise never have a chance to meet. And some of those people will be national media members, and they are some of the nicest people that you will meet.
Yeah, that definitely sounds exciting and all. And then I'm thinking about probably my next race, the 500. If it's got fans in February, I'd assume it will. I just want to check that off the bucket list. Have y'all been to that one?
No, I've been to the 400, and Rusty and I have both been to the Bud Shootout. We got a great story about that weekend.
Bud Shootout. Holy mackerel. We'll have to
we cut her pretty loose.
Oh man.
Well, I was back in February 2009.
Wow.
We managed to drink a UPS suite out of beer.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
All of it. Oh, and out of Beam too. I think we were the only ones in that.
That was
or Jack. I can't remember which. That might have been the Falcons box that we got in that time.
Oh yeah.
It's pretty consistent, our behavior.
We're pretty soft spoken on the podcast, and then put a beer in my hand. Shoot, I'm staring at an empty cup that I need to go refill here shortly, gentlemen. So, but. Yeah, man, it's been a blast. Let's keep in touch. I mean, you're going to all the races that we always go to. Darlington, another one. Shoot, you have to go to Darlington. I mean, it's just required. And the campground there and everything is just so much fun. It's right there at the track, and then the track itself being just the old school cool kind of thing. All the activities that they have beforehand. I mean, me and Sherwin have been to so many races and seen so many pre-race activities. We usually skip it, but at Darlington, it's like you got to go. You got to see everything that's going on. It's super cool. And this last time with not this year, but the last time we were there, and Rick Houston putting out the magazine and everything. I mean, just amazing.
Yeah, so we met Ricky Craven. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, the sensei.
He thought it was awesome that we were holding mixed drinks at like 10:30 in the morning.
Well, duh.
Duh.
Are there any specific tracks other than the Bristols and Talladegas that you'd put on the bucket list, like a must attain?
I mean, Darlington.
Darlington, Bristol, Martinsville.
I gotta tell you, man, Phoenix was super cool.
Phoenix was really neat. It really was. The shitty thing is they don't let you bring your own stuff in, so we spent a lot of money at the bar.
That's true.
But it was fun. We had a great story from that. We did the same dumb stuff we did 15 years earlier. Like we threw a bunch of lawn chairs in a pool. Rusty might have been the instigator of that.
That was I mean, them boys get that syrup in them, and you never know what's going to happen.
Right, like it's just kind of a free for all, really.
Yeah, it's like 3 years ago.
The world's your oyster.
Yeah. Gentlemen, I'm gonna go make my drink. It's been a pleasure. YouTubers, I'm gonna sign y'all off first. We'll see y'all later.
Thank you.